between the functional and the class components. Yeah, so I think I will be covering this PPTs later on. But the very first thing is nothing but what are the commands which you need to set up your initial project. So you need to just open your terminal, just open the terminal in your favorite directory and just hit on by running this command, which is nothing but npx create react app. And remember, as I specified earlier, that you need node installed on your system for starting up with React. And node is nothing but node comes with an variety of packages called as node package manager, and npx is also included in one of them, which can help you achieve it. So let's just go ahead and try to make some things over here. So hope that the screen is visible over here. Yeah, is it visible, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So this is one of the directory which I'm doing. I'm just open cmd over here. And as I specified earlier, that you need node installed on your system. So when you install node, it will be an exe file. Just click on exe file and click on next to install these things over here. Apart from that, when the node is installed, just take a look that node is installed on your system. Now, in order to check whether you have installed node successfully on your system, just follow this command. So node -- version, and you see that we are having the node version installed on our system. So make sure that node is installed. And yeah, I'm having certain questions. Can you zoom a little bit? Yeah, sure. Sorry for that. Yeah, so I've just now let's just go ahead and try creating a basic template for the React app. As I specified earlier, we need to write npx create React app and your basic app name. So I will just write the basic template. And what this will do is this will just grab all the necessary resources for you for the required application. So you think that you can see on the screen that the process has started. So it started fetching all the required materials necessary for setting up an initial project. Now it's going to take some time for creating the application, and before that I'll just try to answer the question that why React is efficient compared to other things. Now this is one of the snippet which I just grabbed today morning from the net, because it was not mentioned in the PPT, and I thought that I should cover this. Now what React has is nothing but it has a virtual DOM. So whatever websites you see on the web, on the internet gets rendered inside the DOM, right? So document object model stands for DOM, and whatever contents or the HTML elements you write gets rendered inside this DOM. Now what React does is it has an virtual DOM. Now what a virtual DOM is? Now what a virtual DOM does is that let me just get it more clear. You can see two DOMs over here. The first one is the virtual DOM and the other one is the browser DOM. Whatever contents you see on the website gets rendered inside the virtual DOM, and React has a virtual DOM itself over here. So whenever you make any of the changes on your web page, the virtual DOM takes the difference between the browser DOM. So let's say that we are having the lots of components over here in a web page, illustrated by graph over here basically. So let's say this is my component 1, this is component 2, this is component 3, and so on. And let's say I make some of the changes in the component 3, which is the green one highlighted over here. And basically this is the website on your browser DOM, and I make some of the changes over here, right? Highlighted by the green one. So what virtual DOM does, it compares the difference between the changes you have made and the changes present inside the browser DOM. So it's, let's say you can see that I have made changes in this component, So instead of rendering all the components over here, it will just render the parent component and its child component. So again, I said I have made changes in this component, just component 3, and this component has a specific child component, right? So rather than entirely rendering the all parts of the project, it will be rendering the parent component and the child component. So if you take a look at the second figure, it will be computing the diff, that is rest of the components are same, just these two components needs to be re-rendered. So apart from rendering the entire thing, I will be rendering these two components over here. And that's why React is quite more efficient compared to other available libraries and frameworks in the market. And hope that answers the question that why React is more efficient than other languages. Now it's quite taking a time for initializing the project. I think we will have to wait for some time over here. By default, you can see that the project structure has been created over here. So it's just adding all the packages over here. Apart from that, has anyone has some question which can be answered until the time it's getting installed on the system?
Yeah, Swapnil sir, there was a question on Telegram, and
Okay.
the question goes like this: can we also use Android Studio to build application?
Yeah, so see, again, you are just trying to make things complicated. Android Studio is used for developing things related to Android, right? You can use Android Studio with React Native. Again, I'm mentioning, see, there's a difference between the one which we are currently doing. We are working on React right now, and Android Studio works with React Native because you need an emulator for developing an apps, right? So when you use React Native, you can use Android Studio as an emulator for developing the applications. So yes, of course, if you're talking with React, then no. If you're talking about React Native, then yes, you can just go ahead, install Android Studio, use Android Studio as an emulator for developing the applications. So I'll be much more concentrating on the web part because that's what this session is meant to be, rather than shifting on to the Android and iOS developments, which is the part of React Native. Just make sure that we stick to this session, which is nothing but on React, and this is probably because of the changes. Yeah. So it's taking time. Apart from that, let me just traverse you through the some of the projects which is already there over here. So this is one of the project. Let me just zoom in a bit. Yeah. So this is one of the to-do list which has been created. Now, as I said, due to lack of time constraints, we can't really perform live coding over here. But I will try to make sure that you get the concept which are being present inside this code. Again, so once the project has been set up and things are been ready, you need to browse to the directory. Now, inside this folder, which is called as sgcem, I have created a directory called as to-do list. So just head on to this directory and just type npm start to initialize your project. And this will be opening your project itself over there. Yeah, so it's opening over here. How can we use ML algorithms and models in React? So I'm not sure how to answer these questions right now, but probably we'll try to answer at the end of this session because I have not reached at that level to use ML algorithms inside React. And most probably what I believe is that since React is for front end, ML algorithms and models are basically related to the backend stuff. So when you talk about React, you can use these models to fetch the data from your React application and just render it on your screen. So what I believe is that React is usually used for front-end application. Definitely you can integrate it. I think I can answer this question with the help of YouTube searcher which has been built because I'm fetching data from this server, right? So ML algorithms and models are always present at your server side, and those servers provide endpoints, which is nothing but an API to get data in your front-end application, which can be your React applications. So it's partially answerable that you can use it, but make sure that you develop your backend first, which handles all the things, and at front end you just try to re-render things over here. Now you can see that this is the basic to-do app. What this to do app does is just try to enter some content, test one, test two, test three, and this just populates it with your to dos, and just click on completed. So completed removes the to do applications. So this is what actually the app about, and it's still taking relatively longer time than expected to build an app over here. Yeah, I think will be done soon. Just bear for a minute so that I can just start on with some of the live demonstration. Yeah, again, till that time we can handle some of the questions if available, or people might get confused between things, so we can handle that.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's some question. Can I use Django backend and React frontend? Yeah, sure. Those two things are completely independent to each other. So you can use backend as Django or .NET as any of the things which you want, and front end you can use React for getting data from your backend servers. So in my team, we use .NET for developing backend microservices and web APIs, and front end for getting that data from the microservices and rendering on the page. So definitely you can just use any of the stack which you want. For backend, you can use complete different stack. For front end, you can use complete different stack, because those two things are quite independent of each other. Yeah, so I believe we are good to go with the base setup. So let me just try. Yeah. So we have created a basic template over here inside this directory. I'm just going to head on to this directory, and I'm gonna just open it in the code editor which I want, which is nothing but the Visual Studio Code. And just let me just start on the project. So it will be giving you an idea that how the basic template looks like. Again, we run npm start to start on the project. Just hit on yes. So it will start on the project. Can we use any other platforms other than CMD? Not sure about that, because CMD is the only way to get started with your application. So I believe CMD is the only answer for that. Yeah. So this is how the basic React template looks like when your project gets set up. You can just see the loading spinner and some of the basic stuff over here. So let's just go ahead and take a look at what are the files which are get created after running this command. So we have a directory called as node modules over here. The other one is public, the other one is source, and some other files. So let's just start with the beginning. What actually node modules is. Now, a node module is nothing but a directory which stores all the other third-party libraries which you installed for your React project. So I believe if you want to install some of the libraries for React, you can just go ahead and type, just typing the command over here, npm install, and the name of the library which you want to install. So this will just go ahead and install the libraries for you. And you should see that library inside this node module. So in order to keep it short, node modules is the directory where all the third-party libraries which you install using npm will get installed inside this node modules. Then we are having a folder called as public. Inside this public, I believe you should store all your images there for the web application. Definitely, if there are static images, you should keep all the static images inside this folder. We have some of the images with us, which is already by default present, which is nothing but the icon and some of the React images which you see. This is one of the JSON file which we don't need to care about right now. So this is what actually for the public folder. Apart from that, inside this public folder, we are having a file called as index.html. Now this is the basic HTML file which we write, which just have the head tags, the link tags, and the title tags. So you can see the title tag as React tag over here, and that's what you see over here. So if I just change this to React, I believe you should see React over here rather than React tag. And then we are having specific scripts. If you want to use CDN, you can add this inside the scripts. I will just show you how can you use CDN, because for the to-do list I have used the CDN for Bootstrap. I will just showing you set. Apart from that, we are having a div over here. Now the div is nothing but a root over here. Now note that this is an very important part of the application, because whatever contents you see over here is wrapped inside this div called as root. So in order to make sure, I just right click on your browser and click on inspect. So this is the console I believe you can use for debugging it. And you can see that you are having a div with an ID root, right? And inside this application you are having a div with an ID root. So whatever HTML contents you write or whatever contents you write gets rendered inside this root. And this is an example over here. So if I wrap things out, everything is present inside this root. So just click on expand it. Let me just zoom it. Yeah, so this is the root, and inside this we are having our application over here. So you can see the image over here. So if I click on it, you can see the app header is there. You can see the image has been highlighted, right? So almost everything is wrapped inside this div. And how is it making it render inside this div? So we are having another file over here, which is present inside source, which is nothing but index.js. So what it does is it just this is the basic JavaScript method to get one of the IDs from the root, and you need to render all the things inside this root. So I think you can just go through some of the tutorials available on the internet for getting more brief idea that how things render, because we are just having the time constraints right now, right? So keeping that in mind, I'm not going in deep, but just traversing you through the file structure. And then finally we are having app.js. Now whatever contents you see over here is nothing but app.js. Now you see that whenever the file structure is been created, things are created in the functional component. So previously, when in 2014 or 15, when React came into market, and whenever you used to set up your project, it used to create the class component, and the class component was something like this, which has been written over here. But now you see that whatever applications which you create gets initially default created by the functional component, and there is a reason behind it. Initially, when you used to write something in functional component, we used to not support states. Now states is something which we'll be taking a look at it later, but now let's say if you are having the application which is written inside the functional component and you really want to use state over there, but the functional component is to not support states at that timing, so you need to recreate your component using the class. So that was the drawback. But now things are being rendered using functional component, because Facebook community has came up with the new concept of hooks, and hooks support states. So I believe using hooks it's relatively easier than using class components. Apart from that, we are having certain questions over here. Audio is breaking. I believe that's because of the internet connectivity. What are the limitations of the React? I believe you can't use React for building large-scale applications. I believe if you are creating an applications like YouTube, you won't able to use React at such an uh, higher components. And if you are using React, you need to make sure that the architecture which you develop is quite stable, because If you keep on adding things, it becomes difficult to handle things in React and things might break eventually, right? Hope that answered the question. So this is the basic template of React. So everything which you see here is rendered inside this div. And as I specified earlier that the motto is to give the basic understanding of props and how components render. Now inside this functional component, you have a return statement, and this return statement is wrapped inside this single div. Now make sure that whenever you create a component, everything should be wrapped inside this single div. Okay? So this is one of the thing. Now let me just get rid of all these things. So just get rid of all these things and save it. You can see that things get automatically compiled and the screen is blank over here. So this is the basic app. Now just try to render things over here. Just type hello and you should see hello on the screen over here. Yeah, so you can see hello on the screen over here. Okay, so this is the basic thing. Now let's just talk about props, like what are props over here. Now let's say I am having an variable over here which is called as test, and the variable is nothing but a string, is nothing but hello from the parent. And now what I want to do is I want to use this variable into some another component. So how can I do is I can just create a new component, just click on create a new file and click on create test.js. So this will be the new component over here. Again, I'm going to use this basic template provided with me so that we don't really have to code from scratch. I'll be removing unnecessary things. Just change the name of the file to which you have provided. So the function name is going to be test. And I'm going to just export this test over here. Now just change it to hello from test and just use it in this app component. Also, I'm going to remove this because we are not using this. And how can we use the other components in the app component? Simply use import test, which is nothing but the name of the function which you are exporting. In this case, we are exporting test. So we are importing test, and we are importing test from /test, right? And just use the test over here. So we're gonna use the test over here. And we should see another thing which is nothing but called as hello from test. Now let's just talk about the props. Now, as I specified earlier, we need to learn how to pass some of the values from one component to other component. That is specifically from the parent component to the child component. Now, in this case, the app is nothing but the parent component. And inside this app, we are having another component which is called as test. So this test is nothing but a child component to this app component. So how can I pass this variable test to my child component? So there comes a props into picture. So you can pass it as a props over here. So I will be passing it as a props. Note that the value of the props can be anything, but make sure that you pass the right variable over here. So we are passing a value called as test inside this variable test. And how can I use this inside the test.js? So of course we need to use props and just declare another variable called as test1, and props dot, we can access the value using props. So props dot, and what are we passing it in props? We are passing nothing but test. So we are gonna just take this test over here, and this should be done. And I believe inside this render I should render test1 and just save it. Yeah, so we get hello from parent over here, right? Hope that it's making sense and I'm not going fast to over here. Yeah, so everyone is with me, right, in this session? Am I going too fast? Yeah, I believe so. Things are great over here. we have another question over here, which is specifying that is it necessary to have same class name as app? No, see, okay, so someone has already answered it over here. No, you should not have that. I believe you should name the class component as per the functionality of the component, and you should not name the app component as everyone, because this app component is been rendered inside this index.js. So make sure that you keep in mind. So you can name any of the name over here. If you want to change the name of the app to test, just change this to test, and the first screen which will be rendered will be nothing but test. But make sure that in index.js you import your component, and the first component which you want to render will be the test over here. Okay, hope that makes things clear and answers the question. Now there's another question. Suppose I want to create class inside class. So what can we do about this? I believe you can't create a class inside the class, but you can have multiple class inside the same file. So I can give an example using the functional component. The same gets applied to the class component. So this is one of the functional component. I can create another function over here, which is nothing but app2. And again, this component will be returning one JS tag, which will be div, and this will be app2, right? So what I have done is I have created another function inside the same file. And again, since you are creating a new function inside the same file, there is no need to export it. You can directly use it by passing app2 over here. And you should see app2 on the screen itself. Hope that answers the question. So this is something about the props. Now let me just take a look at the states in the component. Now states are nothing which are used to handle the internal values for that specific component. So how can you declare the states? So let's say my name of the state is text, and over gradually I need to change the state of this application, right? So what this means is that this text is nothing but the holder for this value, which is nothing but a string. So this is inside text, you will be having an initial value called as string, and gradually as the time process, let's say if you are making lots of API calls and you need to change the data over time, you can use this set method to change the data inside this text. So for that, we can just create a button over here, button, and the name of the button can be change text, and I believe we should call on click over here. So on click, what I need to do is I need to set this text to some other text. So let's say this is the value which I want to do, and what I believe is I should just change this to text. Sorry for that. Yeah. So now if you take a look over here, I believe someone, I lost my internet connection. Okay, that's fine. So again, you can see that we are having a text over here. So as I specified earlier, that this is nothing but a variable which will be holding the value of this text, And what we really need to do is that when we click on the button, we need to change the value of this text to some other value. So for that, we can use set text over here and the value. So if I click on it, you see the value of the text gets changed over here. So this is how the state actually works in the entire application. And with this, I hope we have covered one of the basic concepts, which is nothing but what are props in React, what are the states in React, and how the components gets rendered. Now that's clear from our end. Now let's just take a look at the.
Swapnil sir,
Yeah, I
request you
just
to share the screen.
yeah, I just realized that.
No
Yeah,
problem, sir.
yeah, just a second. I will just. Uh, just a second. Yeah. So I believe we were at state. So what we need to do is we are having an state over here, which will be holding the value of initial, which is nothing but an text. Now, whenever your page gets reloaded, you will see this value on the screen. Let me just reload it. I will have to start this over. Yeah, so whenever your app gets loaded, you should see this value. Now, our main aim was as soon as we get the new data from the backend or some other stuff, we need to change the state of the application. That is, as soon as we get some other data, we need to render on the screen the same data. So if I click on the button, I should see the other text over here. So let's just go ahead and take a look at it. So if I click on change text, you should see this value over here. Now, most of the basic example can be people have searched lots of example on the YouTube, right? So I can just show you with an example. If I go to YouTube, right? Let's say that this is my React application, and initially I have fed some data, okay, and things are rendered with that data. Now this is present inside this specific state. Now, as soon as I search something, right, the state should get updated. So let's say if I search something, the state should get updated and new content should get rendered on the screen, right? So now the new contents got rendered on my screen. So this is one of the example of the states which you can take a look in the real world. And with this, I believe we have covered some of the basic concepts, not in depth, but giving you the familiarity of what props are, what states are, and how things really renders in React. Now just take a look at the basic to-do app which has been created. Now again, this is the entry point of the application, which is nothing but the app.js. Okay, so this is the entry point of this application. And when the app gets loaded, what are we rendering over here? We are just rendering some of the things. So if I reload the app, we are rendering thing called as the search bar and a basic button. And we are also rendering the items present inside this to-do list, right? Now, currently the to-do list which we are having is nothing but an empty list over here, right? So inside this class component, there is a specific way to create the state over here. And you can do this by using this dot set state methods and followed by the name over here. So the item name will be one which will be holding the values present inside this text. And the to-dos is nothing but an array which will be holding all the to-dos which will be specifying over there. Yeah, so there is one more question coming out. Can React handle multiple data sets? Yes, sure. React can handle multiple data sets, and we want to make it more clear. You can have your various components for handling a specific data sets. So component A can handle the data set for component A, component B can handle data sets for component B, and so on. Right? Hope that's answered the questions. So this is how we are rendering. And initially we are not having anything over here. Now what really should happen is that whenever I type something, right, the name inside this to do gets changed. So this is nothing but a form over here, and we are having an input over here. Now this input is nothing but a simple text field, and the value for this input field is nothing but this dot state dot item name. And what really is present inside this state is nothing but a empty string, right? And that's what you are seeing over here itself. Now what I need to do is, whenever I start writing in this text field, the value should get changed, and this is done by using the onChange handler. So onChange, we are calling a function called as onChange. And what are we doing? We are just setting the value to the one which we are typing in the text bar. This is quite similar to the one which we implemented for the button. So when we click on button, the stat gets changed. So there's not much difference. Similarly, when we type over here, the state gets changed. And at last, what we need to do is, when we hit on enter, we need to populate our to-dos with the items which we are entering in this search bar, right? So for that, we are having a function called as onSubmit. So I believe onSubmit is over here. So this is nothing but a form. And when you click on submit, you should get called onSubmit handler. And what we do is, we just get the value which is present inside the item name, and just push this value inside the array which we have created, right? So this is just a simple logic around over here. What we need to do is, we need to type something inside our search bar, and once the user clicks on submit, we need to push that value to the to-dos list, right? And that's what we can do. So if I click on enter, test gets populated, test1 gets populated, test2 gets populated. Now here comes the part where how are we seeing these results over here, right? Now remember I said that we can create multiple components over time. So whenever I am submitting the form, I am populating the values inside this to do, and this to do is passed as a props to other component which is called as to do list, right? So does it make sense that how are we passing props over here, as I shown earlier in the example when the basic template was created? And what this to do list does is, it just iterates over the array, right? It just iterates over the array and just prints the result. That's the function of the component which is named as to do list. And that's another function which is called as if let's say if I have completed some of the tasks and I want to remove.
I guess there is some network issue from Swapnil sir's end. We'll try to reconnect, sir.
Yeah, so this is the function which are creating. So what we are trying to do is, we are just getting the index position of the item which has been clicked, and just we are eliminating this array. So this splice is nothing but an inbuilt function available in JavaScript to remove the values at specific index. So I've just used that. You will be becoming more familiar as you start working on this thing, and it will help you to get more insights on it. Now again, if I click on it, things get removed. Now in order to make it as a better understanding, we can just debug it that what's really happening inside this application. So that's an console over here. I believe you should go inside the sources, and inside these sources you should see your files over here. And we are having two files. The first one is nothing but app.js and the other one is nothing but the to-do list.js. So let's see that what happens over here. Right, so I'm gonna just add an endpoint over here. So this is the endpoint. Okay, so now initially we are not having any values over here, and now once I start filling the values, you should see a debugger hitting over here. So let's say I am adding test one, and you see that we have hit a debugger, and if you will be noticing, you see that we are passing component called as to-do list as a props, which is nothing but an array, and we are just mapping that array and iterating over here. So if I go over here, the button gets re-rendered, right? And let's just take a look at another thing over here. Now if I click on completed, right, you see that this function gets triggered, and if you take a look at the index, we get the value as 0 because this was present at the 0th position. And it's simple. What I need to do, I need to just remove the value which was present at index 0 and just re-update my to-do list to the list which is being there. And inside this to-do we should be having this thing. Now you notice that the length of the to-do is nothing but 0. And this is how it really works over here. Hope that this gives an basic understanding of what actually React is and how can you build small applications in React. So each component can handle various functionality. In this case, the app handles the functionality of search bar and the submitting the form, and the to-do list handles the functionality of printing our to-dos and just removing the to-dos once they are done. Are there any questions related to the topic which we have conducted for the time being? No questions? Okay, so this sounds great for the time being, and this is how we have implemented the to-do list for the application, and I believe so this is the application which we have. Let me just start on the application. So meanwhile it's getting started, I'll just show you the PPT, what it really means. Yeah, so this is how the app actually looks like, and each app has its specific components over its okay. This is how the applications look like. And as I said earlier, that in React, each and every application is composed of components. So you can see that there are lots of components over here. The first is nothing but the component called as navbar, which is used for displaying the items at the top. Then we are having another component which is nothing but a search bar component. And this search bar component will be solely responsible for fetching the data what we write inside the search bar. Then we are having another component which is called as video list component. So what this component does is this just maps over the items which we get from the YouTube API, which is nothing but the YouTube results. And at last, we are having a component called as video player component, which will be responsible for playing the video over here. Yeah, and I just received a question which is saying that I believe something's wrong with the application. Yeah, I believe I have some issues with the files, but I can just try to straight over here. I think I have missed some files, so let me just restart. Yeah, so I just there was a problem with the Bootstrap library which I installed. That's the reason you are not seeing the UI as expected. But uh, as you search over here, you can see lots of results getting updated over time. So if I click on, if I type React Native, you should see contents related to the React Native, and you can also watch the videos over here. So this is whole actually about the app. I believe I will be sharing all these things with you, so you guys can just go through the code. And I believe that's all from the session. Are there any questions which needs to be answered?
Participants can post their questions in the chat box. I guess Swapnil sir has answered to most of the questions. Am I audible, Swapnil sir?
No questions so far. Hoping that I have answered all the questions previously. So.
Yeah. So the questions have been answered already at the time of hands-on session by Swapnil sir. So I'll take over now, Swapnil sir. So thank you so much, Swapnil sir, for taking the session and showing a hands-on demonstration about React and clarifying queries about the students and giving a clear-cut distinction, the difference between React and your React Native, as well as how it is different with respect to Flutter and other things. So, and giving us familiarity about props. So that was good, and also hands-on about the to-do list. Much appreciated to have hands-on sessions, sir. And yeah, so thank you so much, sir, for joining us. It was a
Yeah. Thank you for inviting me. Probably we can have an live coding session if we are having more time later on, some other
certainly,
time. Yeah,
certainly, sir. We'll get in touch with you
yeah,
for our students and for the other participants too.
yeah, sure. Thanks.
So thank you, sir. Uh, the feedback form for session 2 has been made available because there were a lot of discrepancies pertaining to the feedback forms for the first session. So we have decided that the feedback form for both the sessions, that is session 1 and session 2, will be made available till 3 p.m. So till 3 o'clock, participants can submit their feedbacks. Today morning also we were getting responses for registrations, and because we are doing live streaming on YouTube, so I request those participants, those who were not able to register, or those who have registered and not got the registration IDs, please ensure that you can message either of the 3 faculty coordinators personally on WhatsApp with their name, email ID and contact number. By today night, the registration ID for those participants will be generated, and also we faculty coordinators will share you the link to join the Telegram group so that the smooth functioning can take place for the remaining 4 days. I repeat, the link for both the sessions will be made available open till today 3 p.m. as well as those participants, those who are not able to get the registration IDs, can contact the faculty coordinators on WhatsApp with their complete name, email ID and contact number, and by today night the registration IDs will be created for those participants and will be made on Telegram group. So for tomorrow's session, which is 25th of May, we have got a session which will begin at 3 p.m. The link for that will also be made available in the Telegram group. I hope all the participants thoroughly enjoyed both the sessions, that is IoT for music therapy, as well as the React session for web application development. So see you all tomorrow. Have a great day ahead. Thank you. Participants can leave the session.